Whatever the old man does is always right. Now I will tell you a story I heard once when I was small. Every time I think of it, it becomes more and more charming. For it is with stories as it is with many people, they grow nicer and nicer with age, and that is really delightful. You have been in the country, have you not? You have seen a real old farmhouse with a straw-thatched roof. Moss and vegetables grow wild on the roof, and on the gable is a stork's nest, for we could not do without the stork. The walls are crooked, the windows low, and there is but a single one of them that can be opened. The oven sticks out of the wall just like a little fat stomach, and the elder bush leans over the fence where there is a little pool of water with a duck, or a few ducklings, right under the gnarled willow. And there is the watchdog barking at each and all. There was just such a farmhouse in the country, and in it lived a couple, a peasant and his wife. Albeit they had little, there was one thing more they could do without, and that was the horse, which lived on the grass in the ditch by the side of the road. Father rode it to town, he lent it to the neighbors, and he got favors in return. But it would be more profitable to sell the horse, or exchange it for something or other which would be of still more benefit. But what should that something be? That, old man, you will know best, said the wife. There is a market fair in town just now. Ride into the fair, get money for the horse, or make a good trade. Whatever you do is always right. So ride to the fair. Then she tied his neckcloth for him, for that at least she understood better than he. She tied it in a double bow, for it looked smart that way. Then she smoothed his hat with the palm of her hand and kissed him. Then away he rode on the horse, which he was to sell or trade away. Yes, indeed, the old man knew what he was doing. The sun was hot, there was not a cloud in the sky, and the road was dusty. There were many people bound for the market, in wagons and on horseback, and on their own legs. The heat of the sun was intense and there was not a spot of shade anywhere on the road. Among the rest walked a man driving a cow, which was as fine and good-looking as any cow can be. I am sure she gives nice milk, thought the peasant. It would be a very good exchange to get her. Look here, you with the cow, he said, let us have a little talk. Now you see, a horse, I believe, costs more than a cow. But that is all the same to me. I would have more benefit from a cow. Shall we trade? To be sure, said the man with the cow. And so the exchange was made. That settled, the peasant could have turned about and gone home, for he had done what he had set out to do. But as he had once made up his mind to go to the fair, he was going to the fair, if just to have a look at it. So on he went with his cow. He walked fast and the cow walked fast. And they soon were walking right beside a man, who was leading a sheep. It was a good sheep, well fatted and with a quantity of fleece. I should like to own that sheep, thought the peasant. It would have plenty of grass to eat on the edge of our ditch, and in winter we could take it into the house with us. It would really be better for us to keep a sheep than to keep a cow. Shall we exchange? He said to the owner of the sheep. The other was willing, and so the trade was made. The peasant continued on his way along the road with his sheep. By the stile at the roadside he saw a man, with a big goose under his arm. That is a fine fellow you have there, he said to the man. It has plenty of feathers and plenty of fat, too. It would look fine tied up by the side of our pond. Mother would have something to save peelings for. She has often said, if we only had a goose. Now she can have one and she shall have it. Will you trade? I will give you the sheep for the goose, and thanks besides. The man had no objection at all and so they traded. The peasant got the goose. He had now come close to the town, and the crowd on the road increased. Men and beasts swarmed thick. They walked on the road and in the ditch, right up along the edge of the toll collector's potato patch, where a hen stood tied with a string lest it stray away in fright and get lost. It had short tail feathers, blinked with one eye, and looked very desirable. Cluck, cluck. It said. What it was thinking when it said this I cannot say, but the peasant thought when he saw her, "She's the finest hen I have ever seen, she is better than the parson's brooder. I certainly wish I owned her. A hen always finds something to eat, it can almost provide for itself. I think it will be a good exchange if I trade the goose for her." "Shall we trade?" he asked. "Trade?" said the hen's owner. "Why, that would not be so bad." And so they traded. The toll collector got the goose and the peasant got the hen. He had now accomplished a good deal on that journey to town. He was hot and tired. He felt that he needed a bit of brandy and a bite to eat. He had reached the tavern and there he wanted to enter. But the hostler at that moment was going out, and so they met right in the doorway. The hostler was swinging a bag filled with something. "What have you got there?" asked the peasant. "Rotten apples," replied the hostler, "a whole sackful for the hogs." "My, but that is an awful lot. I wish mother could see this. Last year we had one single apple on the old tree by the woodshed. That apple had to be kept, and it stood on the cupboard till it split open. It is a bit of a luxury," said mother. Well, here she could get to see what luxury and abundance is. I wish she could see those apples. "Well, what will you give me?" asked the hostler. "Give? I'll give my hen in exchange." Then he handed over the hen, and received the apples in return. He entered the inn, going straight to the room where drinks were served, and set his sack of apples against the stove. There was a fire in the stove, but that he didn't know or think about. There were many strangers in the room, horse dealers, cattle dealers, and 2 Englishmen. And they were so rich their pockets bulged with gold coins. They made wagers, and now listen. Carrot hiss. Hiss. What was that sound from the stove? The apples were beginning to roast. "Carrot, what is that?" they all asked. They soon heard the whole story about the horse that was traded away for a cow, and right through to the rotten apples. "Well, you will get it good from the old woman when you get home," said the Englishman. "There will be an awful racket." "I will get kisses and not scoldings," said the peasant. "The old woman will say, 'What the old man does is always right.'" "Shall we wager?" they said. "A barrel of gold coin, 100 pounds to 100 weight." "A bushel full is enough," said the peasant. "I can only fill the bushel with apples and throw in myself and the old woman. But that is piling up the me, sir." "Done." "Taken," they cried, and thus the wager was made. The innkeeper's carriage came up, the peasant and the strangers got in, and the rotten apples were lifted up, too, and then they journeyed to the peasant's house. "Good evening, old woman." "Thank you, old man. I have made the trade." "Yes, you know how," said the woman, and then she put her arms round him and forgot both the sack and the strangers. "I traded the horse for a cow." "Thank heaven," she said. "We shall have plenty of milk and butter and cheese on the table." That was a fine trade. "But I traded the cow away again for a sheep." "Why, that really is still better one," said the wife. "You are always prudent and thoughtful. We have all the pasture necessary for a sheep. Now we can have sheep's milk and cheese, and woolen stockings, yes, and woolen night shirts. We couldn't get that from a cow. She sheds her hair." "You are a wonderfully thoughtful man. But I exchanged the sheep for a goose. Are we really to have roast goose this year, my dear old man? You always think of something to give me pleasure. That was lovely of you. We can keep the goose tied, and so get her still fatter before we roast her." "But I traded away the goose for a hen," said the man. "A hen? That was a fine trade," said the woman. "The hen lays eggs, it hatches them, we shall have little chickens and soon we shall have a whole hen yard." That is just what I have been wishing for so much. Yes, but I traded the hen for a sack of rotten apples. Now I positively must kiss you, said the woman. Thank you, my own dear husband. Now I will tell you something. When you were gone, I thought of making a real good meal for you, egg pancake with onions. I had the eggs, but I had no onions. Then I went over to the schoolmaster's. There they have leek in their garden, I know. But the wife is so stingy, I asked if I could borrow an onion. Borrow, she said. Nothing grows in our garden, not even a rotten apple, and you cannot lend to me even that. Now I can lend her 10, yes, even a whole sackful. That's a fine joke, old man, and she kissed him. I like that, said the Englishman. Always downhill and yet always contented. It's worth the money. And they paid a bushel of gold coins to the peasant who had not been scolded, but kissed. It certainly always pays when the wife sees and declares that her old man is wise and always does the right thing. There is the story. I heard it as a child, and now you, too, have heard it, and know that whatever the old man does is always the right thing to do.
Thanks for watching. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more amazing content.